and Matt. We can all take a seat. All right, he pushes this along. My name is Devon Turman, and I am the executive director for an organization called the Brothers Brunch, where we pour into men so that they can show up as better husbands, fathers, and friends. I'm very happy to be here to support RodneyStreet. I'm going to ask if we can just do a quick, well, you know what? We don't even have time for that. I'm going to give you instructions. Is that cool? All right, so we have Matthew Johnson, who is the ED for RodneyStreet, executive director. Give it up. We have Jeff Harrison, who is USTA Foundation. Kristen Lake, former RodneyStreet kid, coach, tennis coordinator, and last but not least, Yashua Douglas, former RodneyStreet kid, junior coach, adult coach, first generation Allison. I can keep going. One more. Ralph Simpson. And Ralph Simpson, of course. Give it up. I have some special questions for Ralph, so he's ready. All right, so I'm going to say a few things that I got from the movie, but I want to see which scene you all latch on to and why. Can we do that? All right. So, determination, teamwork, partnership, culture, navigating two worlds, kindness, legacy, fatherhood, survival, environment, the game, affirmation, diversity, pride, confidence, family, resilience.
That was a mouthful. Great. So I definitely say culture. The Williams sisters changed the culture of tennis. I think before they came on the scene, tennis was a sport of the haves, a sport for the wealthy, a sport for people who had money, and they changed that. They also brought a lot of diversity into the game of tennis, and I think that they serve as an inspiration to young girls all over the world, not just America. And they made tennis players a household name, which I don't think was something that was done before. If you were in the tennis community, you knew Capriati, you knew Stellis, or Pete Sampras or McEnroe, but the Williams sisters kind of pervaded tennis and they became big stars, some of the highest paid female athletes ever walk the earth. So they definitely changed the culture of tennis.
I would have to say family. Serena and Venus started tennis together. They're running their family and support. And I know for me, I've been here for 9-10 years now. And throughout the years, I had brothers come in, I had support. People that I played with, I called family. For like a second family to me, tennis is a second home and family environment for me. And I know for my first family, I have brothers in here now that think they can beat me, family competition. But we know that I'm still a bigger brother, so I have more experience with tennis overall. But I think that somehow, somewhere, and eventually in the future, that they will surpass me and be greater than what I have became in this program of RodneyStreet.
In terms of the takeaway from the movie, I think King Richard, I think we can add Queen Orsi to the movie. Over these years, I think Orsi Williams' role in coaching and developing the Williams sisters has been vastly understated. And I think that that's probably the biggest revelation. And so I congratulate the Williams sisters and everyone who organized the movie for really, really bringing that out.
I also love the word fun. They had fun playing. They weren't forced. It wasn't a job. They had fun. They smiled. They were laughing. Their sisterhood, the sisters that even didn't play tennis, they all were always laughing in that family bond. But I like the word fun. They had fun playing the game.
Actually, I have a different question for you, if I may. Jeff. So you being the executive director of RodneyStreet, this organization started in 1978, happens to be the year I was born, right? So it's been around for a long time. It started so that we can do out of school time for young people in Wilmington and to keep them off the street. Fast forward to 2021, can you tell the folks out here a little more about how you all are showing up in the community today?
That's a good question. You know, I took over the organization right now almost be 2 years. When I first, I was hired in January 20, and then COVID hit. So all my aspirations and all the things I thought that I would be able to do for the organization, I came home, and the crazy thing is me and my wife were in Costa Rica 2 weeks before they shut the world down, and I'm talking about all my dreams, and babe, I want to do this, I want to do that, and then we got home, and a week later, all of that just went down the drain, and I was devastated. And I was, my wife was like, well, you figure it out. So, I took stock in it, talked to my staff, and we realized that everything shut down for everyone. But what I didn't want to do was to have our children not have us, because that was a big thing. It was a disconnect for the whole country, and the people that suffered the most were the children, because they were used to being social butterflies. They used to be in school. They used to out of school time programming. They used to so many different things, and it wasn't there. So, we were one of the first organizations to go virtual. We did STEAM lessons. We did social emotional programs. We just made sure we kept connecting. I rode around, delivered food. I delivered Thanksgiving baskets. I delivered Christmas toys. I just wanted to make sure that the kids had some sense of normalcy and understand that, just because we're going through it doesn't mean that RodneyStreet is not there for you. So that was the biggest thing. And then once the restrictions started lifting a little bit, we were able to, and one of the things I did, as we said, grow, is that as we started moving, we started having Zoom pods in different community centers. And so the kids were there in front of in a community center, in front of computers all day, with no real structured athletic activity. So what we did was we went into the Zoom pods and we provided tennis instruction through multiple facilities. Police Athletic League in Wilmington, Williams Anderson, Hilltop, Boys and Girls Clubs. So we put ourselves in those facilities because the kids couldn't come to us. And right now we're back open for the most part. We did summer camp last year. Was the first year for me leading. We did summer camp, and we had 170 kids registered, but I had about 50 to 70 kids on the wait list. And we just couldn't service them all. So we did an educational program, and we had kids learn about getting a boost of about 3 months of educational services. So we just tried to make sure that we were there for them, and if we grew, and now we didn't stop doing the community centers. It just opened up a new avenue of kids for us to work with. So now that has grown exponentially, and we added that into our summer camp. So now we have Tower Hills as a summer camp, but then we have Rockford, where we have community centers come and get tennis lessons. Girls Inc. Some of the girls are here from there. We did, as you can see up top here. So Boys and Girls Club. We did all these different community centers that we really got into to make sure.
Hold on to that. I think it's important to note that there's power in the programming, for sure. But obviously, RodneyStreet has had to pivot in light of the pandemic. And so having to do that, particularly early in your tenure, I can only imagine, because I want you to hold on to that, because I need you to tell people what that meant for the organization, because it kind of stunted your growth a little bit in terms of, bringing in funding and doing all the other things and all the dreams and aspirations. So I want you to hold on to that, because we need to talk more about that. Ralph, is it true that you started playing at the age of 7?
I was forced to start around that age.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Can we
The answer is yes, but I didn't start it. My parents started me, or else.
All right, so you are from California?
Yeah.
Okay.
The Bay Area.
The
So
Bay
I wanna be
Area,
very
sure.
clear. There is a rivalry between Los Angeles and San Francisco, so I want to be very clear.
I want you to talk about, there were some moments in the movie where there were coaches obviously involved. And so I read somewhere that I guess Ronaldo Zels and Paul Wells. Can you tell us about who these individuals were as it relates to you and your journey as a tennis player?
Well, I didn't make my high school team, and essentially, 4 years after high school, I'm playing #1 for Tuskegee University's tennis team. And the two men that you mentioned, aside obviously from my parents, were instrumental in that. Paul Wells was the tennis coach, head coach at Kenyatta Junior College, and he saw me playing pickup basketball and suggested that I come out for tennis. He had a background. He played number 3 or 4 singles for Cal Berkeley, the Pac-10. So, and he just saw me on the court, said I need to come out, which I thought was crazy because I told him I didn't make my high school team. Don't worry about that. Ronaldo Zales gave me my first job, which happened to be in a tennis shop. So he played Davis Cup for the country of Bolivia and played some pro-am tennis throughout Northern and Southern California during the 1970s. So those were the two folks that were most instrumental in my success at Kenyatta. I got a chance to play in the OI tournament, which is near Santa Barbara and is known for hosting both the Pac-10 tennis championships and the California Junior College championships at the same time. So, I got 2 courts down for me playing was like Casey Louie, who was the son of Peanut Louie Harper. We were right out there. So that to answer your question,
I'm gonna pretend like I know all the people that he just mentioned. But no, I appreciate you saying that because I think one of the most powerful moments are just all the people that can come into your life when you're playing a sport, right? Not everybody has your best interest at heart, but there are some people that really start to kind of penetrate you in terms of igniting why you love the sport. Kristen, can I talk to you for a minute?
Yes.
Right. So talk to us about just this notion of diversity. You mentioned it earlier, and just being a woman in leadership, and a woman who's playing the sport who happens to be a woman of color. Mm-hmm. What challenges comes with that, and what advice would you give to young people? And I'm going to ask another part of that question if you can remember it all.
Okay.
What triggered you through watching this film?
So growing up, I started at a young age playing tennis. Gene Thompson and Bob Roger got me into tennis. And when you go out on the court, it's very male dominated. All my coaches were men, right? I didn't see any women. I didn't see any black women. And so you kind of feel a little like underrepresented a bit. But I knew that I kind of emulated what these men were doing, and I was like, one day that's going to be me. And so they really pushed me to, play my best. And eventually, when I got to high school, I did have phenomenal women coaches, and I ended up winning a state championship in 2004. I had 2 perfect seasons in high school, and was able to kind of represent Delaware in that way. And then went on to coach college and high school, have a combined 25-5 record, and I kind of grew into the coach that I wish I had when I was a kid. So now that I'm an adult, and especially I think because at RodneyStreet we have so many young women, so many young girls who are in these organizations and are playing tennis, it's important that I'm a role model for them, and that I'm the coach, that I wish I had. So I kind of see myself in a lot of these young women that I can interact with, and I think their jaw always drops when I walk in, and they're like, this girl plays tennis? I'm like, yeah, we play tennis, So it's very profound, and I just always just want to make an impact on the kids, so that's why I do it.
Awesome. Jeff, USTA, right? I don't know a lot about tennis, but there was a woman named Katrina who was heading that up, which speaks volumes because she's a woman of color, right? Can you just talk at a high level, one, your experience in the tennis world, but also how far we've come to date?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. The USTA Foundation mentioned Katrina Adams. She's actually the executive director. She's Matt's counterpart for a tennis program in Harlem. So she walks the walk, she talks the talk. And she and Zena Garrison and Lori McNeil really were the trailblazers for Venus and Serena. They opened up so many doors. And so Katrina, Zena Garrison, Lori McNeil, they all give back to this day. Zena Garrison runs a program like Matt does in Houston. Katrina's in Harlem. Lori McNeil's a coach in Houston, Texas at the Parks and Rec Department. And I think they understand giving back. And really what USTA Foundation programs do is we find communities that need support, tennis and education together. And again, I think the fact that Venus and Serena have carried the torch so far, but really Katrina Adams and Lori McNeil and Zena Garrison really opened up so many doors. And the fact that Katrina led the USTA, the first African American woman to lead the organization, says a lot about the game, how it's changing.
Thank you. Joshua. Can you just tell us more about your experience with RodneyStreet and pretend like we know nothing about the organization?
Let's see. So since I've been in RodneyStreet for a very long time, I've seen lots of great changes and great people that come in and out that plays tennis and relationships. But it's not just about tennis and people that you meet. It's about the connections and environment and educational purposes that RodneyStreet gives to the kids. I've learned a lot since I've been here. I've learned, different arts from teachers, great tennis, proper motion and how to play tennis from coaches. You come here to make friends and become a greater person of who you are and who you want to be, and you come here and achieve that purpose and goals that you have in mind, and
That was good enough.
Yeah, that was good.
That was great.
One of the things I really want to kind of talk about briefly is, are we all familiar with the nuclear family, like what that means? Anybody? Nuclear family, right? Nuclear family essentially is just when you have mom, dad, and kids. And so one of the things I can't unsee, right, is the fact that there was mom and dad. And let's be clear, if you knew King Richard, you knew he had a colorful history with ladies and kids and things of that nature. And so he had a beautiful life and a beautiful story. But at the end of the day, it still was mom, dad, and kids, right? And so it makes me wonder if that is the narrative, if that is the demographic of the families we serve. And I'm asking because I don't know, and because I can't help but believe that having that structure might have changed things a little bit if it were the opposite, and if it were just mom, or if it were just King Richard. Can we talk a little bit about that and the family dynamic and what we do as an organization as a result?
I think Matt's got that big time.
Yeah, I'll take that. That's a loaded question.
I know.
All right. So the reality of what we face in inner cities across the globe, right? There's more single moms raising children than there are nuclear families. And as we watch that, it's great to have that nuclear family together to be supportive. That's what makes it so important for our organization, because a lot of our kids don't have that nuclear family. So in retrospect, we become the nuclear family. and we become the support system, and we become the backbone for the things that whatever one person is lacking, we're able to give. That's what we come in as an organization, is to try to provide the aspect that is missing in their lives and in their growth.
Yeah, you couldn't have answered that any better. I tried to get you, but that was good.
I can't get mad.
Yes.
If I can add.
Sure.
There you go.
If you look at from the 50s, when I think the first African American was able to break through on the ATP tour, if you look at the history, you will find certainly, King Richard was spotlighted today, but make no mistake about it, there have been male figures. You look at Senior Harrison, Martin McNeil, and Mr. Harrison, you got to mention John Wilkerson, who I think should be in the Hall of Fame, by the way. You mentioned, in fact, Kavon, your alma mater, Lincoln, my former place of employment, Dr. R.W. Johnson was instrumental in Arthur Ashe's and Althea Gibson's development. You look at Eva Chanda Rubin, and her father was a judge and was very active. So you've had active males throughout most of the African Americans that have succeeded, through particularly the 20th century. And so whether it's within the family structure, but also, community leaders. There's always been a strong male figure behind a lot. Malachi Washington, his father, was very active as well. So,
yeah, I'm still going to pretend like I know what he's talking about and who he's talking about, but I'm going to have to Google some of these names.
Malachi Washington was a Wimbledon finalist.
Okay.
In the late 90s.
Got it. You knew, or no? Did you know?
That's a bit before me.
She said this was before my time.
Number one at University of Michigan, and then
Okay.
turned pro.
Appreciate it. Let's shift gears a little bit. We only have a few more minutes, but I wanted to talk about the importance of affirmation, particularly for our young people, right? The importance of affirming, and being able to speak life into our young people. And I know that has to be a part of what RodneyStreet does. And I just want to get your perspective on the intentionality of the film, right? So I noticed it when they were practicing in Compton that there were two signs that were up, right? And one was, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail, right? And the other was, you are a winner. Throughout, there was so much like richness. I thought it was really well done in terms of how intentional they were in terms of speaking life into these young people, particularly young people that may come from really harsh realities, right? Did you also notice that King Richard called them by their first and last name? And he was very intentional about saying Venus Williams, Serena Williams, just so that you knew who you were, like and where you came from. Did that hit different for anybody, or was that something that wasn't as important? Anyone?
Thank you. So I always try to talk to the kids about the power of positivity, right? And the power of speaking life into yourself and eliminating that word can't from your vocabulary. So a lot of times when we go in the community centers and kids are first picking up a tennis racket, they'll say, Coach Kristen, this is too hard, I can't do it. And just because it's hard doesn't mean that one day we won't succeed at it. And I remember growing up as a young girl, I had some coaches and they told me I'd never be good, right? And they weren't very positive with me, and a lot of times the coaching was negative. And so when I interact with children that I coach, I kind of am very careful with the words that I use with them. I never want them to remember me and think, Coach Kristen told me I can't do it, or I couldn't do this. And so it's very, very important, I think, to teach them to build themselves up, especially because in a sport like tennis, when you go on the court, you have no coach. Your coach can't coach you. It's not like basketball or football. You're there by yourself. And so if you don't have that confidence and kind of that self-worth and you don't believe in yourself, it's going to be very hard to be successful on the tennis court. So it's a very solitary sport, I think, in that regard. And you have to have that self-worth and sense of self. And I think that spills over into other areas of life. You can tell yourself that you can do it on the court, you can do it in the classroom, right? You can try new things. And so all of these things are connected. And if I can train the kids to speak positively to themselves when they're in an athletic activity, then I can also train them to speak positively to themselves when they're going on a job interview, or when they're applying for colleges, right? Or when they're interacting with their family and their friends. So tennis teaches you a lot of life lessons.
Sure.
And that's kind of our job as coaches. It's not just about the sport, it's about teaching the kids those life lessons and building them up.
I love that. We don't have a whole lot of time. One thing I will say is that you have to be under a rock if you haven't been hearing diversity, equity, inclusion, and now belonging, right? So that being said, I want to talk briefly about access, right? And what we are, like, how accessible is tennis really for our young people, particularly young people of color? So I want to talk about that briefly, and then I want to see if any of you have any questions, and then we'll kind of wrap it up if that's okay. So can someone talk to me about access? First question is tennis expensive? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, so if it's expensive, roundabout, if I'm wanting to just jump into tennis, what does that look like for me out of pocket cost, just to be prepared? Just throw it out there.
I'd say the going rate for a private lesson in this area at a club is $80 an hour.
$80 an hour. On average, how many hours would you need, really, just beginners?
At least about 2 a week, at minimum.
2 a week,
So
okay.
you're talking $160 per week, for a child to play with a coach.
Provided that you have one child that wants to play.
Provided you have one child that wants to play.
So talk to me, Matt, about RodneyStreet and what that means for any kid out there that will want that opportunity, or anyone that will want to support your organization so that it could do what it does, right? And make this possible for young people.
One of the things we pride ourselves on is being affordable. We understand that everyone can't afford $80 an hour coaches. So, our organization eats the brunt of those costs. So we try to make sure that the families that don't have, we have scholarship opportunities. So the goal of our organization is to make tennis affordable to anyone that wants to come in our organization. That takes funding. And that funding, let's see, my board, myself, my team, we constantly, every day, all day, my goal, and I'm trying to raise money. Everything I do from the time I wake up to the time I go to bed is about raising money so that I can make sure that our children have access to this particular program.
I'll add one thing from the USTA Foundation is giving RodneyStreet about $50,000 this year. And again, that's a drop in the bucket. But again, $50,000 is, as we talked about, can go a long way with tennis and education and its equipment and its rackets. And forget if you break a string, you have to buy strings and a stringer. It's $30 a pop. So it's equipment as well, for sure.
Anyone have any questions? Anything comes to mind? Any questions, comments, concerns? Yes.
This question is from Matt Johnson. Matt Johnson, why do you do it?
You better have a few minutes.
Can you repeat the question one more time?
I'd like to know, why do you do it? Why do you get into the community, and why do you try so hard to support the kids that come to your center?
Because in a lot of cases, I didn't have it. And I didn't grow up with, the wherewithal to be able to finance and to be in every sport and be in everything. And the Boys and Girls Clubs help make me who I am. If it wasn't for the Boys and Girls Club being there for me when, my father was in jail, incarcerated. My mother was going through things she was going through. There was one stable thing in my life, when we were homeless, the lights are out, nothing to eat. There was one stable thing in my life, and that was the Boys and Girls Club. And I knew that I could eat there. I knew I could get help with my homework. I knew I could play basketball. I knew that I could do that. So it just made me know that what my purpose in life is to ensure that I pass that on. My purpose is to make sure that I give every kid that comes across the organization that I'm involved in a better chance than before they walked in the door. My calling is this. My calling is to make this place a better, any organization, any place better than before I got here. Because my heart is into it. You know, I don't have a job. I haven't had a job since 1993 because I do what I love, and I love to make a difference.
While you're at the mic, give us 30 seconds on Grow the Game campaign.
Well, right now, and thank you for bringing that up. Right now, we're in our annual campaign, and the moniker for that we use is called Grow the Game. And as you see with Serena and Williams, they grew the game for people of color, for women. And so right now, that is what we're using. And our goal is to grow the game in the state of Delaware, not just Wilmington. You know, my aspiration is for us to be statewide. So with that, it's going to cost, we're going to need funding, indoor facilities, outdoor facilities, coaches. So growing the game to me means getting more kids involved, getting more community citizens involved, bringing more people to the table, but that costs. So in our Grow the Game campaign, we're really reaching out to everyone, and please support us in any aspect you can. The sheets of paper that you were given today has a QR code on it, and you can click onto that and donate whatever you can. We appreciate that. And go on our website, RodneyStreet and donate there. And let me just say one thing, and to Jeff, what you've been able to do for us and what the USTA Foundation has been able to do for us has been phenomenal, and we appreciate you.
I'll say the two thoughts that I have as it relates to this film are dreams without plans, right, can sometimes fall short. One thing we notice is that he always had a plan from the very beginning. And it's okay to dream, but you have to create some level of a plan. And also, to never let your gift take you to a place where your character can't keep you, right? We saw that there were other tennis players that fell short because they didn't have as much or as many people, if you will, pouring into them and holding on to them and hugging them and letting them know that we're going to go to Disney World or we're going to have balance, or no, you're going to be a student athlete. You see what I did that? You're going to be a student athlete. And so at the end of the day, just never let your gifts, because we all have gifts, take you to a place where your character can't keep you. Yes?
In addition to that, there was also, Richard Williams clearly asked, or he demanded, humility from them on the court.
Absolutely.
So the idea of throwing rackets on the court or cursing, Richard would pull them off the court.
Absolutely.
And Dr. Johnson from Lincoln was also known for that as well, back way back in the day. So
there was a lot to unpack here. Of course, I had Cinderella written down here in the whole nine, and we can go for another hour, which we will not. Please give our panelists a round of applause. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for coming. I appreciate you. And